Hey everybody, welcome to Average Guy Opinions. I'm your average guy, John Corelli. I hope you can hear the music in the background. I'm trying to do a new thing. I know the channel may get boring sometimes, so I try to do a new thing. Sometimes my thing that I'm doing sometimes is the Italian Guy of the Week. We do this on my podcast. I could not do 10 minutes, and I don't think, more importantly, you can do 10 minutes of me doing an Italian accent, but I hope you enjoy the music. I hope you enjoy this video. But yeah, on our podcast, the hockey podcast I do with Mike Davis called Top Cookies, we have started a new segment called the Italian of the Week, and because there are a lot of Italians that played. Sorry, can't think without my coffee. That played hockey. And they all have interesting stories and backgrounds, so that's our little... We can do like a 1 or 2 minute segment, and we play some Italian music in the background. So if you go to the last few, like episodes 7, 8, 9, especially the last one, 9, we actually put music in the background of that one, and we can learn a little about the Italian of the week. And so I think I'm going to start trying to do the Italian of the week, and not just hockey guys, but this time I'll do hockey guys, because this is an interesting story about two guys, the Bertuzzi guys. Now, they're not brothers, but they are relatively famous hockey players. One plays currently, another played back in the 90s and the 2000s. So I'll tell you about them. The first guy's name is Tyler Bertuzzi. Now, I don't know what Bertuzzi means in Italian, but I'm guessing it might mean thug or toothless or mullet. I don't know. Dude's kind of funny, though. So he plays for the Detroit Red Wings currently, and he's a pretty good player. Unfortunately, he has decided to not get vaccinated. Apparently, the NHL cannot force their players to get vaccinated. However, since the NHL covers two countries, obviously Canada and the United States, out of the 32 teams, 25 reside in the United States and 7 reside in Canada. And Canada's probably not too happy about that. And the original 6, there were 2 Canadian teams and 4 American teams. Detroit Red Wings being one of those teams. But as the population of the United States has grown way more than the population of Canada, they really don't have... It's still not actually that big of a disparity. They had 1/3 of the teams back in the original 6, back in the 40s and 50s. Now they have 7 out of 32, which is almost a quarter. So I guess it's not that bad. But be that as it may, no Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup since 1993, so they're probably not too thrilled with that either. So anyway, let's get back to what we were going to talk about. Tyler Bertuzzi. So yeah, he hasn't gotten vaccinated, and they will not let him play in Canada. I know you guys probably didn't watch the hockey playoffs last year, as we were starting to come off of COVID, kind of, sort of. Excuse me. Well, we weren't really. Actually, we're kind of in the thick of it, but during the playoffs, Americans were allowed to go to the games, and so were Canadians, but there were completely different standards. If you watched any of the Canadian playoffs, they were masked. They were socially distanced for the most part. They were in groups, but they were still socially distanced. The stands were not full. Not here in the States. You had a lot of people without masks. You had full arenas to watch the playoff games here. So the Canadian I guess government, in conjunction with the NHL, has said, if your guys want to play in Canada, if American players want to play in Canada, if anyone wants to play in Canada, they need to be vaccinated. Well, Tyler Bertuzzi says, I'm not doing that, and so he is forfeiting a tenth of his salary because he will not be able to play in Canada, and that's about a tenth of the games apparently this year. He makes $4.5 million this year, so he's losing $450,000. After taxes, probably a good $300,000, which is still significant. Having said that, he's already one of my favorite players. He's fun to watch. Like I said at the beginning, I don't know if Bertuzzi is Italian for toothless thug or mullet, but he's missing a tooth. He's got a big mullet, and he just is he's a good hockey player. Let's go on to the other Bertuzzi. His uncle, Todd Bertuzzi, pretty infamous here in Colorado now, and most people probably don't remember him, but hockey fans certainly do. Todd Bertuzzi was a hell of a player. Wore my favorite number. I've always loved 44. Some of my favorite players ever wore 44, especially in football, like Floyd Little, John Riggins, and then I would wear it whenever I could. I wore it a lot when I played softball in my 20s. Just loved the number 44. And he was actually one of my favorite players until he did this. So they were playing. He used to play for a good chunk of Todd Bertuzzi's career was with the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the Canucks were playing the Avalanche. I want to say this is like maybe the early 2000s, if that makes sense. Like probably around 2008, 2010, maybe a little later than that. Maybe somewhere around 12. I got to figure it out. But the time isn't as important as what happened. A guy on the Avalanche named Steve Moore went after, but not super dirty play, but kind of hurt one of the star players of the Vancouver Canucks. Ads, kiss mine. Let's get to some good stuff here. Ooh, there we go. Sounds pretty nice. That's a nice Italian. So anyway, back to Todd Bertuzzi. So the Avs were playing the Canucks here in Denver, and this player Steve Moore hurt one of the major players, one of the big skill players for Vancouver. I can't remember which one because they had two of them. They were called the Sedin twins, and so it was Daniel, and I forgot the other one's name, but he hurt one of them, gave him a concussion. It wasn't a super dirty play, but it was also an injury that could have been avoided. He kind of stuck out his arm and knocked the dude over, and he hit his head or something. If you watch it, it's not great. It's not a super egregiously dirty play. However, hockey has a code, and so after he hurt this dude, there's I wouldn't call it a bounty, but there was, I guess you could say, there was a price on Steve Moore's head. And so they went back to Vancouver. I don't know how far along it was along the line. I think it was only a couple weeks. Played Vancouver, and Steve Moore's skating along, and it was creepy. Todd Bertuzzi, he's a big guy. Can't remember his exact size, but well over 6 feet, well over 200 pounds. Big dude. Hell of a player, too. And so, now we're talking. Anyway, so... this is really jaunty music to describe what I'm going to tell you, though. So Steve Moore's skating around, kind of following the puck, you're not always going straight towards the puck. You're trying to figure out where a good spot is to go. You're circling around the ice, kind of making sure an offensive player isn't getting behind you, or looking for an advantage as an offensive player. These guys know what they're doing. So he's skating around, and the entire time, Todd Bertuzzi's like 5 to 10 feet behind him, just following him. It is creepy. And it was kind of crazy that Steve Moore didn't see him, to look back and see him. But Todd Bertuzzi's following Steve Moore for probably it felt like an hour, but it was probably like maybe 20 or 30 seconds. And finally, he just blasts him right in the back of his head, face first into the ice. And it didn't look like much, but he broke the dude's neck. Now, not a severe, snapping of the neck where he died or got paralyzed, but... he broke one or maybe two vertebrae in his neck. It was pretty bad, and Steve Moore never played again. He had to have cervical surgery. It was in the cervical. There's 7 cervical bones. The first 7 bones of your spine coming down from your skull are your cervical bones. 7 of them. I knew that from when I used to prep spine surgeries. But he hurt maybe 3 of them. And he had to have spinal fusion surgery, and obviously he could never play hockey again. And this brings me to my point. When it's something that needs to be really thought about in professional sports. If you hurt a guy intentionally, and that's enough Italian music. If you hurt a guy intentionally and you end his career, should your career end? I don't know. I think it's a fair point. What would be a punishment that fits that type of crime? Bertuzzi, I think, got suspended maybe the rest of the season and lost some pay. But what about Steve Moore? He never gets to play again. Maybe there should be some rule. Okay, you knock a guy out. If it's one game, you pay his paycheck. Or at least you pay one of your game's paychecks. Like say this guy makes $10 million a year and you only make like $2 million a year. Okay, maybe you shouldn't have to pay his $10 million, whatever per game he makes paycheck, but you should pay something and not be just left clean in the process. So it's something to think about. There's got to be a big penalty when you end a guy's career on the ice or the grass or whatever playing surface you're playing on, especially if it's a dirty play. Anyway, so there's the Italians of the week. A Tyler Bertuzzi and a Todd Bertuzzi, a nephew and an uncle. Interesting pair. Thanks, guys, for checking it out. I'll try to spice up this channel and do some cool stuff. Maybe like I said, to get it better at the editing. Maybe get it better, put some music in the background, and find some interesting people to talk about. All right, thanks you guys. Talk to you next time. Bye.